So what I want to paint for you now is the picture, 52 million that you see going around. And it came in about 40, Doug, a little before we added everything to it.
I think, yeah.
So we
I
had,
should have reviewed the number.
it's all right,
I know what we have, we still have,
just to give you an estimate, and this isn't anything exact. The 52 million came in around 40 million, 41 million. And so we had 10 million left.
There we
And
go.
when we took all the alternates, they went through and said, okay, bid the alternates. So the alternates, as you see on that list, were huge. We got them all. So then what that said is, okay, we have $10 million to do two things with. One is turn it back to the taxpayers, or two is utilize it to upgrade the building, which is the option we took. We said that the $10 million, we took 5 of that, and that's when I was, talking about change orders, meaning we're upgrading more than what we had. We had a very good building that we turned into an excellent building by adding 5 million more to it, which is unheard of for that, but it kept these guys, and luckily we had construction management. If we had a general, we'd had problems because they're set inclined to say, I'm bidding and doing exactly what I put out. These guys said, we're gonna adjust the flow, the contractor's flow will change, the subcontracts will change, and so the stack orders of change orders, which the architects look at and say, this is something we can do, falls on these guys' plate and say, okay, how do you price it out? Then they gotta go to subs and say, what do you charge me to do more stuff? So you see that scenario, that left us with 5 million left. We're gonna use a portion of the 5 million to do some Q-scab work, which means some Davis-Bacon retrofitting, but we'll still have a couple million left over, and the 2 million we have left over, interesting enough, the legalities say that we leave that on like a savings account. When Middleton runs their next elementary, they have $2.5 million already approved by the taxpayers to say all we need is 2.5 more to give us a $5 million next elementary. That's huge. No one has that capability, of saying half our next elementary is already approved.
The other thing that, it's not just about spending the taxpayers' money because you have it. It was the thinking that's gone in, or at least the processes you've explained to us, is that, having the extra classrooms and adding that step on increases your ADA. We have students from Emmett and, families that are waiting for this building to open to bring in. And as you're looking at declining student populations, which is your income, looking at having that, also having state-of-the-art facilities to where you can host state tournaments is another money piece. If we're looking at when we're going to 5A, can you then add the tennis courts and the stuff? No, but we can add it now because we have the money. So when is that bonding capacity ready for the future? So, as we read in the book, about being able to dream that future vision of what you're going to need versus building for now, it was nice to have that extra money and to plan for how it will, in a lot of aspects, pay for itself through that ADA and through other funding opportunities because of what you're able to put into it. So it's not just about spending the money in the future. So
Yeah, your discussion was good. Your questions were legitimate. When you plan one, how do you plan it? Do you plan it for what you have now? And Meridian, unfortunately, has to do that. Linda next door can't be planning in advance because they're growing too much. So they have a different scenario than we. I got a lot of criticism though from parents and patrons out there that were skeptical, not as many parents as other patrons, saying, why'd you build that huge school when you don't need it? Well, when we planned that school, and I told you about doing capacity planning, I ran capacities. We were the 5th fastest growing school district in the state at that time, because we have 100 square miles and we run right up to Meridian, we go up to Emmett, we go clear to Sand Hollow out here, and we go along the freeway here. So we have 25 acres, 25 miles of acreage that is incorporated. 75% of our acreage is unincorporated for future expansion. So they pick us as a second Meridian, saying you have the capability and you're in the middle of everything. You can go in that way or on the freeway, as to get to where you want to go geographically. So people like the location. We get a lot of kids that move out of Boise, more Boise than Meridian, but want acreage and smaller schools. So Robin says we planned for that idea. When we did the 52 million though, we looked at things and said, we're gonna build for 4A. When we had 10 million left over, we said to ourselves, now it makes sense for us to build for 5A. So football stadium, we increased for 4,000 seats. We did those sort of things that we looked at in those 10 classrooms. We said, you know, we could get by without those. We'll move in here with 1,000. Our capacity is 1,550 at 86%, meaning, you know, you have one, every teacher has their own prep room. At 100%, when we make roving teachers, we'll put 1,700 in here. So as Robin says, it tells us that we financially are fine because our bonds are paid. It's not costing us any more here. But on the same token, we have capacity of 500 that we could add here. Now, the other nice thing is we have a nice middle school that is designed as a middle school but new as a high school that has a capacity of 1,200. They move in with 750. So there's 350 to 400 kids there. We have our elementaries that a couple of them are full. Robbins is full, but on the same token, as I told you guys, we were astute enough to say to our contractors when the going was good, every time you build in our district, we're gonna give you a letter and a formula to say how much responsibility you're putting on our facilities, and we asked you to do one of three things. Give us a site, build us a school, or give us the money in lieu of a other two. Robin got a portable at her place from those contractors saying to us, we have an obligation. And so they bought $100,000 portable that they felt inclined because they were adding X amount of kids. But it takes, you have to be very, you know, upfront with them and say, I'm not pulling any legs. Here's the formula, and it has to be a well-tested formula showing them how you calculate their growth. So quickly going back to what Robin said, we planned everything again. We examined the entire scope of what was there, and then we said to these guys, here's the things we want to do to upgrade 5 million, and most of that was for energy, better materials. You'll see stainless steel in here where, you know, is unheard of, on corner molds and up to stairwells and fans and the things that reduced energy. But on the same token, we looked at 10 classrooms. We looked at a stadium that rather than seating 3,000 seats 4,000, bleachers all the way through, and said, what do we have to do to position ourselves that when we flip into 5A, we're not going to say to our taxpayers, well, you know what, now we got to do all these upgrades. That wouldn't go over at all. So we have a 5A facility for 4A until time we move into it. We'll have 14 classrooms, interesting enough, that we made the decision here that will be locked off. Eagle, when they opened their new school, Beck said, you know, the problem is that we opened all the classrooms, and the classrooms were then used by teachers sharing, kids, you know, socializing in them. When they used those rooms, then they had to go back in and renovate them. The furniture all disappeared. I told our principal here, you pick your staff wherever you want them to go, and then I'll look at the map, and when you're finished, I'll take the classrooms that are left over. And I knew from a mathematical standpoint how many there'd be, because I knew how many classrooms 1,000 kids would need, and so his turned out too different than me. We have 14 classrooms that'll be locked off. In the little windows there'll be a sign in that window that says future classroom. And it'll be completely furnished inside with the exception of computers and locked off. And he doesn't have a key that gets into it. The heat utilities will be down, no strictly then until cold winter, and then the thermostats kick on. But otherwise, those are 14 rooms that are as good as extra classrooms down the road that you'd build into that we have furnished. Then we made the decision on this budget to buy all new furniture. That's a decision you need to say. Most high schools bring their furniture with them. And Canyon Ridge, they brought stuff from wherever they could, even though they had Twin Falls High, they thought, you know, if some of that stuff goes with them, it goes with them. We made the decision here for $1.6 million in furnishings, buy everything new. The athletic people at the middle school are going to be on Seventh Heaven. They get a high school athletic facilities left just like they are. So they get the football stadiums, the basketball gyms, they get all the track equipment left there. The band equipment stays right there for the middle school band. And that is huge for them because most of the time middle schools are high and dry and say, well, where do I start?